Woohoo! Here we are again, everyone. Welcome, Ashala and Sue. I'm welcoming back Sue Grockmill, who's my friend, collaborator on doing these live sessions. She was behind the scenes for several weeks, and now her questions are just so phenomenal that I really wanted to include her in our discussion. I apologize, neither of us were able to make it last week, but most of the weeks ahead, our schedules are open for the Wednesday morning. So welcome back, Sue. And I wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, I've still got my 24% off sale on. All readings booked, purchased on my website prior to the 24th of September. You get a 24% discount. You can schedule the reading anytime. I didn't get the links into the comment or the blurb session below, so they will be in at the end. Any of my other videos over the last couple of weeks have also had those links on them, so you can go and check that out. And if you don't find it for some reason, the coupon code is a simple SEPT for September and 24. So you put that in the little coupon area, and you will receive that 24% discount, anything that you purchase before the 24th. Hi, Brown Eye Lady, Ricky, Garden Hoe, Valerie. Good morning, everyone. Sue, would you take a moment and share with us, please, about your offerings? Because I really love what you do, and I want everyone to know what they can receive from you.
Thank you. So I do quantum healing hypnosis, which is like the Dolores Cannon in the Dolores Cannon tradition. So basically, what I like about this sort of a form of hypnosis. However, it's not so much like I'm telling you what you should be thinking or what I'm getting from you. Like a shell, I can tune into you and kind of tell you what she's getting. Yeah. I'm more putting you in a really relaxed state, almost like you're coming out of the dream state. Mm-hmm. So just sort of like you're waking up in the morning and you're like, oh, should I get up and maybe go back into that dream? And then basically you tell me what your dream is. So what you're seeing in your dream, what you're perceiving in your dream. So I'm guiding you and you're telling me. So I really like that because it's really connecting you to you.
Yeah.
It's not me telling you anything. It's me connecting, helping guide you. And then you're connecting to the highest aspect, which is the clearest. It's the clearest and most accurate information we can get is connecting your higher self to you.
So totally. And I want to mention that I did have a session with Sue, and it was phenomenal. She's really great. You're really great, Sue, at that. Just giving enough guidance to prompt a process, but and then really giving good, I want to say like active listening, like, okay, so you're experiencing this, like you're always sort of reflecting back where we're at as we go through this session. But I also felt like there was a lot of spaciousness for me to just sink into things. And it never felt for me like, I've always been a little bit, I love hypnosis, but I'm not easily put into that state. I think I'm walking around in that state all the time, actually.
Yeah.
But what I noticed with your session was that it did feel really relaxed and easy. And I was able to sense, almost like you say, that half awake, half dream state. And it was really easy to express that to you. It felt like just the right amount of cues. So I really highly recommend to anyone that wants to explore what's going on in their inner landscape to book a session with Sue.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And what's cool about it is our subconscious mind is running all the time.
Yeah.
So it's there. So people are a little afraid to look at it, but it's running there anyway. So why not have a look at what it's trying to tell you? And often it's trying to prompt you. So a lot of people find like there's like little bits and pieces, but we're not quite putting it together. And then, right. And then it's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that makes sense. Cause it kind of connects all the dots. Right. And we're both being guided. we're being guided together, so we journey together, right? So
Totally.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let us connect in now with questions. I don't see anything up there yet. Sue, you can get us started.
Okay, right on. Well, okay, so what I am wondering, just in that vein, is what is the collective subconscious telling us at this time? Where are we? Where
Mm-hmm.
are we just in humanity?
Mm-hmm.
What's running in the backdrop that we're not quite aware or becoming aware of at this time?
Well, it's interesting because I'm hearing spirit is saying what's in the collective subconscious, and what I heard was it's not a lot of fun right now. We're all sort of hoping for a little bit more fun and frivolity. It's pretty full on, like you know,
Yeah.
we have to sort of make the fun happen intentionally, because that's what I'm being shown initially, is that
Mm,
yeah, we've got this burden card at the bottom. So there's a lot of work. The subconscious is doing a lot of work. Let's see what spirit says about us as a collective. Yeah. Okay, so 2 of Cups is a beautiful, balanced divine union card. It's about sharing through our emotional filters, our emotional experiences. It's about love. It's that love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. It's the shared love that helps us feel like all of this is worth it. So there's a desire, there's a longing to be met. This is, all different types of love. It's about our relationship with ourselves. It's about family and friends. And ultimately, it's about life partners and those kind of deep, intimate love relationships. So there's a lot of energy, of desire to find, yeah, like shared emotional experience of love, basically.
wow.
Oh, look at this. And so this is us. This is where we're at right now. And this is the answer to your question, is the 5 of Cups. So the 5 of Cups is the sorrow, grief, uh, you know, disappointment card. So we are really noticing, almost like there could be this grand stock taking of the amount of grief and disappointment that we just pack around. Sometimes we call the subconscious the backpack. And they're saying, if we look in the backpack, we've been carrying around quite a lot of this grief.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
notice with this card, you can see there, see how there's 3 cups that are spilled?
Yeah.
That's actually in the past position of the card. And behind this character, who's looking quite sorrowful, there's 2 cups standing. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's these two. That's these 2 cups.
No, no
So
way.
we're needing to turn towards the love that is there for us and make that a priority. So basically, the collective experience in the subconscious is all about, like, emotional connection and love.
Nice.
Oh, whoa. Okay, so the lack of that, the disappointment in the past has led to a lot of these kind of behaviors. So the 7 of Cups, so far, all cups, and cups are emotion. So the 7 of Cups is where we are looking to fulfill these natural needs and desires for love and connection. We're looking to fulfill that through things that are tempting to, like, almost fill it but don't, right? So this is substances, shopping, addictions.
Right. The dopamine hits, right? The likes on
Absolutely.
Facebook, shopping
Yeah.
addictions.
Yeah. And so we've spent a lot of time almost like running away
Yeah.
from what we really want.
Yeah.
And here we are in the present. We're saying, you know what? It's time to get these very basic needs met.
Right.
So it's almost as well like these, and if you listen to my soul sampler from this week, this tomorrow actually is the new moon in Virgo, and it's a lot about, I call it not breaking habits, but changing habits. And these are habits where we're trying to fill that emptiness and void, that disappointment and grief with all of these substances and, habits. And they're not working.
Right. It's like you're hungry and just eating chips and never getting any kind of fulfillment. And we've been trained into that for so long. And I was thinking with the 5 of Cups there is that like we're focusing on the grief, right? We're focusing on what isn't working and the disappointments and the hurts, but not looking at what we do have, perhaps. So somebody says here, Kelly says that she's had weird feelings of lack and grief coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I notice myself too. Like I'm usually pretty good at sorting out what goes where in terms of, okay, I know where that's coming from, and that's based on that trauma, and this is part of this. And it's just so mixed up right now for me. Like everything feels very kind of like it's all thrown in together, if that makes sense. And there's nothing that's really filling those voids, the things that even I could sort of lean on temporarily. It's working less and less, which is good. This is a good thing because it's like, in a way, you could say we've hit a sort of rock bottom emotionally with fulfillment and with grief. And isn't this interesting? We've got the Magician in the future, the potential future. So we are here. The Page of Wands, he's the take the tiger by the tail, carpe diem, seize the day. And the Magician is putting plans in place, actually taking the steps. He works with all the different elements, emotional, physical, mental, energetic. He's basically starting afresh, turning over a new leaf in all of those 4 areas. Nice. So there's something about us saying, you know what? Again, I talked about the winning and losing last week and in my soul sampler. And it's like we're saying, you know what? It's no longer okay to have these big, okay, we make these trade-offs, right? Oh, I'll have this, I'll have security and some material things, but I'm not very emotionally fulfilled. Or I'll have the emotion, but I won't have freedom and whatever, right? We've done a lot of trading off of this and this Magician, because he works with all of the aspects, the creative, spiritual, the emotional, the material, monetary, financial, and the intellectual. It's like he's doing it all. And we're saying we want a life that fulfills all the things. It doesn't have to be perfect. There can be challenge, there can be growth, but we want to tick way more boxes in our life.
And how important are relationships? I work with a friend who's a nurse, and she said, and she worked with in palliative care, and she said in the end, most people say they wish they had deeper connections with other people. And how important is that? And perhaps over the last few years, that's become to light, right? Being out on people's deaths, not being able to attend certain things, getting pushed out, or feeling pushed out, or disconnected from others, and then it just seemed to do the opposite and pull people together. And perhaps that was part of the purpose.
A little bit of advice from the universe, and then we'll go on. I see there's some questions.
Yes.
Someone wants to know about your sessions, Sue, so we'll have a look at that. Okay, so the advice is, we've got, sorry, you can't see them very well. We'll put them in a little closer. So we've got this, which is the 9 of Pentacles, and it's my sovereign card. I use it to illustrate sovereignty.
Yeah.
And, freedom comes from knowing yourself well enough to create the reality that really supports your sovereign values.
Yes.
It's not going to be, we could all have something a little different. What that looks like, right?
What's coming to me is that I think we came through a lot of time of codependency and power struggles and in relationships, intimate and otherwise. And perhaps we're coming into like, I'm a sovereign being first and foremost, and so are you. I lack nothing in myself. You lack nothing in yourself. So we're not demanding so much of each other, perhaps more fulfillment within. And the independence card's right under that card. So maybe.
It is. It really is. And, if we can, the other thing is we often get into that codependent because we're actually not attending to what matters for us. And I have a funny little story with my life because, my kids have said to me for years, like, Mom, just tell us what you really need. And I think that sometimes I would feel maybe even a little bit ashamed of what I needed, like that it was so like, I need to go out walking in the woods today. Like I can't, like it's, or some little thing that I needed, some little, detail attended to. And I felt like I was comparing it to what other people need. And I was like, well, who makes a big fuss about that? But then there's all these things that I don't make any fuss about. So I actually had to go, you know what? Those are the things right now that I actually really need. It could be something so simple and insignificant, but if I can identify that it really matters to me and makes a difference in my life right now, it doesn't matter how it compares to what you need or anyone else needs. That's my need. And so I've gotten better at that in the last 3 or 4 months. And it's really made a difference because now I'm not, feeling disappointed that other people aren't showing up to meet these needs of mine. I'm able to say, you know what? I'm dropping everything. I'm going out walking in the woods right now. Like I got to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry about dinner, but this has got to happen right this minute. And I know it sounds silly and selfish, but I know myself. Here, if I don't care for myself in this way, this is a way I can.
Yes. Believe me, this is good for everybody. If I attend to this need, this is good for everybody. Well, what is it about the shame around having needs? I feel like I have suppressed so much of it, thinking, oh no, I don't need that. And not even being able to understand what my needs are, not alone attend to them, right? So just really, like you say, tuning in, right? To understand what that is.
Absolutely. And knowing ourselves well enough to know, and then, defending them, standing up for those needs.
Right.
And this, like, if you're not going to defend your needs and defend how you can see meeting them, which isn't necessarily about depending on others, but it's about like standing firm in what it is that you need. And if you can sort of show up for yourself that way, then you can create relationships where people will show up for you too.
It's almost saying I've chosen that it's important to me. How is it supposed to be important for anybody else, or even to recognize it?
And that we waste a lot of time trying to convince people that our needs are valid.
Right. Or convince ourselves, perhaps.
Or convince ourselves, right? So they're saying just get on with getting it met and let go of having to justify, because that takes so much of the energy.
Yes.
So this is a bit where we're at. kind of a cool little.
Yeah.
Fold that up. And Sue, we've got some questions, and do you want to speak a little bit to someone?
Sure. So do I do past?
Yes.
So do I past lives? Yes. So quantum healing hypnosis is like a past life regression. You said we don't always go into a past life. We do sometimes and we don't sometimes. So it totally depends on the person. So there's that. Yeah, but definitely go into past lives, and also connecting. There's someone asked about how do we connect to loved ones that are passed away. And I know, Ashala, you could probably respond to that as well. I've had regression sessions where there was one gentleman, an elderly gentleman who lost his wife, and she came in and she said, "I'm right here." And he said, "Did you move my hearing aids?" And she said, "Yes, that was me. I wanted you to know I was here." And it was interesting because if he was just so distraught with grief. And she
Mhm.
said, "When you get like that, I can't contact you. I can't talk to you, but I'm here."
Mhm.
And she said, "It's beautiful where I'm at. It's peaceful, it's harmony, and I'm saving a place for you here, and you're
Mhm.
going to love it." And then
Mhm.
he said, "She's walking over and she's touching my cheek, and you will know I'm here because I will touch your cheek. But when you get distraught and are so full of grief," she's like, "I cannot contact you." So it was really interesting. She said, "Just stay calm and call for me and I'll come." So it
Mm.
was, yeah, it was a really beautiful experience.
Isn't
And I
that
also had an experience when my father passed away. I knew as soon he was gone, we would be closer. And he came into a regression session, came through somebody and spoke, and said, "I'm, now you're not what happened to you, but also that I'm here and I'll be part of guiding you and be part of your life now in a different way. I'm not who I was when I was alive." So it's
Yes.
really beautiful how much he saw, as soon as he was going. He said that the death experience was quick, pulled him out of his body quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was really, really fascinating. We should look at that one day, Ashella. I think it would be nice. Like we talked about bringing, like I did a prayer bringing him into the light, and I asked if it helped, and he said, "I wouldn't be where I'm at if you didn't learn that skill." And so
Yes.
talking about bringing and asking Archangel Michael, and you're like calling in,
Mhm.
doing a calling in, asking for a healing if it's deemed appropriate, and ask if they should be brought to the life if it's deemed appropriate, but you call them in. So it was a
Yes.
beautiful process. I'd love to look at it one day.
Truly, yes.
Yeah,
We could start maybe even next week, talk about that
yeah,
at the beginning of the
yeah.
show. Let's
And how
make a
we
note
look
of
at life and death,
that.
right? Like the
Mhm.
whole like birthing into new life. And I often refer to Edgar Casey, and he said it's not all of death to die and not all of life to live, but those who know that death and birth are one are the ones who know peace.
Mm.
So it's really beautiful, and I know there's a lot of grief and a lot of people. I mean, I always say like choosing a ticket out at this time
Mhm.
for whatever reason, perhaps to work on the other side or whatever it is. But yeah, like that, just the way that we've been taught around death, perhaps it would be a really nice time to gain some beautiful perspective on it, or a new perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and this is such a huge, important topic, you know? I feel like, we really neglect death and the dying process in our culture, and it's been something I'm actually doing a workshop series this fall, on conscious conversations around death and dying.
Yes.
I have done these kinds of workshops before and workshops on grief and grieving, and it's such a beautiful, powerful
Mhm.
part of our human experience that we literally ignore and actually fear and shun from. And this is part, I feel, of the disconnect and this and the that need, that desire to have meaningful relational connections. Part of our relationships are about not fearing loss. And
Mhm.
like you say, having these teachings where you can understand where someone's going and how you can stay connected with them after they've gone. And
Yeah.
what I notice in my sessions is that I always say, if it's important for that connection to happen, they will come. And let
Ah.
me tell you, they will come. I have a wild, amazing story about doing um, a reading event with, it was someone's birthday, a lady's birthday, and she had, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 of her friends, and she wanted me to come to the event and do readings, little readings for all of them. I used to do lots of those events. And the first lady that sat down in the chair, and I was doing like 20 minutes with each of them, I suddenly was getting this, there's her brother or someone's brother had died at a younger age.
Oh,
And I kept saying, did you lose a brother? Did you have a brother? Do you know of someone that had a brother that lost a brother? And this being, this brother would not let up. It's like, I was kind of like, oh my gosh. Anyway, 2 or 3 people later, I ended up doing a reading for the birthday lady.
wow.
And in the process, she said, oh, well, because they were, having fun and talking, and this
Yeah.
lady can go back and say the brother thing. And through the process, the birthday lady said, oh, well, my brother died at a young age. And I literally jumped up off the table and I was like, it's her, it's her. And then
Oh,
they all
that's
started crying.
amazing.
Everybody was crying. It was
Oh,
like this really big
he
thing.
finally tapped into a channel, right? He's like,
He was like,
coming through
there's
you.
a channel.
Yeah.
I can talk to her. I'm getting this butt his way right to the front, like the
Love
front of the
it.
line.
That would be, what a good discussion. That's
So,
beautiful.
so I
That's
feel
so
like it's
beautiful.
just so beautiful that if someone wants to connect and make a message come through, they will find a way. And you can ask for signs. You can ask for specific signs like colors, rainbows,
Right,
animals.
right.
Within the next week, show me a this that you used to love. Or, people say, oh, my mom is like loved butterflies. And when I see them, things like that, right? There's ways that you can start to have that. And
Very
then, yeah, the final thing I want to say is that, I also feel like a really beautiful way to honor our loved ones that have passed on is to embody some of the characteristics that we loved about them, that we can learn from them.
I actually love that. I
Mhm.
actually love that. Like, because we were just talking about my dad, because my mom's visiting, and we were like, he never spoke badly about anybody ever. Never did. Never spoke badly. Never had a bad word to say about anybody. And I thought, yeah, like, why would we? Why
Yeah.
would we? Why would we ever need to, right? So what a beautiful characteristic. But it's interesting. I mean, we never had a close relationship here, but also we could get into karmic stuff, right? Because I'm like, so did you do that to me? Because I did something to you, and he's, in another life, and he's like, well, you did, like, yes, but he's like, it's not like that. It's not just sort of
Yeah.
like, well, no, I'm coming back to it. Like, it wasn't. He said it's not exactly like that. It's like, yes, but you more have an agreement and contract for learning, which helps the
Mhm.
forgiveness process, right? It's like I agreed to that contract
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
the learning. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. I'd love to go into that at some time. Did you want to take a question here?
Yes, please.
Okay, amazing. Two alien. Okay, so this is a call to the universe. Two alien mummies from Cusco, Peru, were unveiled today in Mexico's Congress.
Mhm.
How is the disclosure process going?
Okay. Mhm. Mm. Mm. Interesting.
That is interesting. Two alien mummies. Be so interesting. So Cusco, Peru is like a sacred site, right?
Mm. Us being part of the galactic committee.
Right. I'd
Um,
love to get into that too, Ashala.
okay,
Like,
so interesting that it's interesting that we're talking about mummies, because I was like, oh, there's going to be Egypt is going to be connected next. And there's my card. You see those pyramids in the bottom there? This
yeah.
when this card means a lot of things, but it can relate to Egypt. And
Oh,
I was feeling that when I laid that card down, and there it is. So um, I get that we're going to see more and more of this. Also, reanalyzing these mummies in these different locations. Um, Interesting. Oh my goodness. It's interesting. This actually ties in really well with what we were just talking about, Sue, because what I'm hearing is just like the ancestors and loved ones, our relatives that have passed on, I've noticed. So people sometimes say, I want to communicate with so and so, and I'll check in and they're not there. And I always say, that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean we can ask, are they doing okay? Did they make it to where they need to go? The
Right.
fact that you don't feel them does not mean they don't love you. It does not mean that they're not safe. It means that they are in process and kind of busy, and also that it's not the right time
Right.
for them to be there. Like, it's almost like we were talking about the contracts. It's
Yeah.
like part of the contract is, sometimes they're going to be there the minute they pass, and they're going to give you messages right from the beginning. And sometimes it could be 10 years later or 15 or 20. I mean, in this case, this woman's brother had been gone for like 25 years or something.
Oh,
So
wow. Yep.
it's never too late. And what I'm getting is that this is the same with these alien mummies, is that it's almost like not only on Earth disclosure, like governments releasing information, but things like off-worlders, which, as we understand, in a way, a lot of these off-worlders are like older or future versions of us. Like, there's a lot of connection. It's not just like they're these complete alien beings that have nothing to do with us and are, even if they look very different than us, they are somehow our relatives, and they will be found and show up when we are ready for them. And it's sort of like when the time is right, they will reveal themselves. So it's not only disclosure being like capped by government organizations, it's literally kind of like the spirits of these relatives of ours playing a little bit of a game with us, like, are you ready? Maybe you're not quite ready. And the fact that they're showing up now means we are ready. We are ready. And I feel like there's going to be something about looking at different locations at the same time. Yeah. Um, wow. It's a big part of our transition through this very interesting phase of our evolution. So, they would show up, and we are going through the precession of the equinoxes, which is about coming into the Aquarian age. And each one of those ages, as we transition every 2,400 years. Is that right? Yeah, 2,400 years. And there's bigger ones that are on the 24,000 and so on. As we make those transitions, it's always like we need a little bit of support at those junctures. So I
Right.
feel like they're saying over the next couple of years, it's sort of like they're showing me like popcorn, like things popping up out of the ground. and
Right.
and the analysis and, the connection, making the connection between different civilizations and the ancient ones. It feels like we're ready. And this is going to start expanding over the next year and a half to 2 years.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And I get it. Like I've had a couple of run-ins with aliens.
Mm-hmm.
In a meditation where he handed me something, and we were in Lake Shasta in the mountain, and my back of my spine started to burn all the way down my spine. I was terrified. I wasn't ready. I had no idea that was going to happen. I didn't know what was happening to me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, who is this? Who was this guy? I don't know, was he good or bad or what he did? And yeah, right. And I felt like I gave him permission. And then it was like, oh my God, my back was burning.
Mm-hmm.
And then that night I had a dream. Same little blue guy gave me something and I took it. It's like, fuck did I take it, right? And like, when you look into it, like, I was like, what did I take? Did I take it? Was it good or bad or what happened, right? Like, so it is a little terrifying, right? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, your name was Blue. So that was interesting. Then I went in the harmonic egg. I told you about that one time, right? So there's this harmonic egg. It's supposed to be Syrian technology from Syria, like from the planet. So I went in and I had a friend who went like every week and she's like, oh, it's relaxing. It's nice. And I was like, had all these like lives flash in front of me. And then I was brought onto a ship and these beings were working on me and I didn't have to breathe at all. I was just stopped breathing, but I didn't have to. I was like, my logical mind was kind of in the background going, kind of like what happens in hypnosis. Wait a minute, like you have to breathe, you're gonna die, right? But I don't have to breathe, so I'm not understanding. Right? But they didn't. They felt comfortable, and then they were working on you. So I get the idea of not being ready. I don't know what this is and who you are, and you're a different color than me. I don't know what's happening, right? Like, so it would be awesome to look into stuff like that. It would be really look into like, do we have to invite them in?
I'm actually looking at like where are we at in being ready, sort of generally speaking.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting, because remember I said at the beginning of this live something about when we were looking at the subconscious, and I was going, oh, well, they're saying we're not really having very much fun right now. It's not very much fun.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm getting is they're saying, you know, we want this to feel good. We want it to feel good. So exactly what you're saying, Sue, where, you know, like there's awakenings and medicine journeys, you know, plant medicine journeys that don't feel very good.
Yeah.
You're in them. And there's others that do feel quite good. And it's not about, you know, it's not about one's good and one isn't good. It's about maybe we need it to start off being pretty playful and sweet and like gentle on us emotionally.
Yeah.
Because we really need that, I feel like, to set a tone.
We've had enough scares.
We've had enough scaries, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, unfortunately, the controllers have done a very good job of creating so much distortion in the media that we can't, you know, we're literally needing to dump out a lot of that programming.
And the horror movies from the 80s.
Oh, all of it. All of it. I was driving this morning after dropping my daughter off, and I suddenly had this flashback of some weird horror movie from the 80s. And I was like, and I couldn't handle those things. Like I probably watched like 3 or 4 of them ever, because I realized, holy, like I watched one, I don't remember which one it was, in the 80s. And I literally came home and had a poltergeist, and I was like, okay, no, because I'm so open, right? It was just like, things start flying around. I'm like, okay, no, I'm not doing that stuff, right? And I used to say to people, there's enough horror in this world. We don't need to go and look at someone's imagined horror.
Yeah.
We got enough. Just look on the street. You know, you don't have to look very far to see horror. So
crazy.
So they're saying we need to start off like the Hallmark version of ET content.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't watch any of that now, but yeah.
Right? Well, I mean, that's really cheesy and bad and also programmed, but I'm saying, yeah, there's something about also that they meaning the beneficial ETs that are ready to support us, they actually want, their first primary directive is to help us lighten up and be more playful and have more joy.
I love that. I love that. It's like the inner child is innocent and playful, and it's kind of your God self, and we've lost it in this grim seriousness, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And truly, like, that's, they're almost saying, like, to not feel ripped off if it does start very light and fluffy like that, because it's actually really about tuning us, fine-tuning us to release a lot of that old programming.
Yes. Yep.
Oh yeah, look at this. They're going to help us build our ability to see, understand, so that we don't go, this is another thing, the version of disclosure that has ships showing up in the sky and governments saying we're doing this now, like the disassociation that would happen en masse would put people into a state of like basic disassociative hypnotic trance, and then they're very suggestible. And
Right.
I don't know, to me that's a little bit unnecessarily extreme at this point. Like,
Well, we've already been hijacked for so long, and then completely hijacked over the past 3 years in a hypnotic trance, or many of us, or many people. So for that to happen, that wouldn't make any sense. And are these good? Are these bad? That's what I went through just even in a meditation. Like, what did I just drink, and why did I do it? What is my back burn? Like,
yeah,
it's like, yeah. I don't know.
yeah.
I've never seen a blue guy before. It was real.
Right. Yeah, and if they can come to us a little bit more almost like, beneficial mythologies or fairy tales or something, like,
Yeah,
it's not that we're not open to expanding our minds. It's that we need to practice starting like with square one, right? It's like it's a lot to go from where we are right now to like really extreme stuff. So
right.
mhm.
But we're getting close to disclosure time for like lots of people, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that again, how it happens is
Mhm.
more important than when it happens, basically, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And let's just talk timeline for a minute. We've got 2 threes here, 3 of cups, 3 of pentacles. This
Okay.
is a really nice foundation for the best case scenario, which is the sun. It's the best card in the deck. Wheel of Fortune. So things are turning around. We're going to see kind of things showing up from different corners. You see how in this card there's like the elements, the animals, the characters in the 4 corners, and
Yeah.
the wheel is spinning in the middle. It's like things are coming in from all directions, basically. So again, that's a little bit of that energy of other countries and parts of the world.
Right. So what I understand, so in a couple of my sessions, I've had Arcturians come in. Yeah, so that's really fascinating. And they're saying I am, like, they're literally saying I am Arcturian, and I know another person who isn't an Arcturian. And then one girl, she was from Archon. She was from this planet where there were the fallen angels. And I said, can we speak to a couple of the fallen angels? And they said, sure. And they said, why? I asked, well, why did you fall? Like, what happened? And they came back and said, it's because they were so jealous that God loved us, the humans, so much that they were jealous. And that's how it all began. And that even they're feeling bad about how difficult it is for us at this time, and how badly it started to go for us. And that she had come from the planet because she was from a warring planet, and she understood how to be a warrior here. So it's really, really beautiful. So we're getting like lots of off-worlder stuff. And I'd also like to, and not to go off topic, but kind of on the topic of contract. I had one lady who was in a council. So it was a council. They said it was in the ninth dimension, and the Council of Orion or something like that. And she was sitting in the council, and this lady was holding her arm down, and they said, we see your contracts. And she had all these souls she was trying to take with her into the new earth. And they were like, we see what you're doing. Like you can't. And then they're like, we told you every life we've been telling you, let them go. Like you cannot take them with you.
Mm.
So it was really interesting. Is like we do actually walk alone through this life. I mean, together as one, but to hold on to these old
Mm. Mhm.
was saving them, and they were like they had their own way to go, and she was holding them. So
That's like, between life codependency or something.
yeah, totally. I got you, the rescuer. I'm gonna rescue you all, and they're like, let us go.
Well, and
Yeah,
I've noticed with past life work in my readings that, there are often themes that people do like several lives on a particular theme. And they come at it from different angles, sometimes from different characters in the theme.
right.
Um, and you can kind of monitor where they are in this particular life and how they're doing it differently this life, and possibly even where it might go next, and then it gives them a sense of, because that's one of the things I notice is people are just so overwhelmed with feeling like it's all resting on them and it's all resting on this life and this moment. Like we gotta fix
Right,
everything. We gotta like
right.
save and I mean, yes, we've got to like imagine the very best case scenarios and call forth the very best of our capabilities, but to pressure ourselves into thinking that we're the ones that are going to fix everything and save everything, it's not the way the universal law works. So it's both that like being very inspired to bring the very best of who you are forward, and also to let go of feeling that you are so responsible for it.
Yes, letting go, feeling like
Wow.
you have to save in everybody or
Mhm.
anybody, really,
Mhm.
and
Truly.
letting go. Like I renounce the role as savior to
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah, but a lot of us feel that way, I think, because it feels like this is the big one. And I felt a little bit like, well, what's my biggest fear? A little bit around missing what was my purpose here? Like, did I drop the ball? Like, this isn't the life I feel like I can drop the ball, you know?
Mhm.
Valerie said I just lost my mom last month, but it's true. I do feel like she's closer to me now than ever, and that she's seen butterflies now. So
Oh, wow, isn't that something?
rainbows,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah, yeah, double
Wow.
rainbow and a butterfly. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how I saw that somebody said something about golf balls, and I was like, yeah, it's so cute that, you know, different people will send different things, and that's their way of communicating, because it's like an inside joke. It's like a family joke or something, right? It's like that's a perfect way that you know who you're dealing with, because it's so specific and comical often. I
Yeah,
see that
totally.
there's a question about October 3rd.
Yep.
Let's get to that, and then I just have to
Okay.
let everyone know that we're signing off a bit early today because I have a session in 12 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. Anyway,
Right, right on.
so
Yes, do you want me to read it?
yes.
How about this October 3rd date where they are going to try to throw the switch, and anyone who has had the cure will basically turn into a zombie. Sounds like fear porn to me.
Oh, yeah, me too. There's often something of value in even that kind of stuff. There's often some kind of, not necessarily truth, but wisdom. Or so let's have a look. The October 3rd date, first of all, we've got a lot of big dates, right? We've got like dates in September, dates in October. As
Yes,
always, a lot of predicting going on.
right.
So, they're saying, let's pay attention, folks. We are falling into the cry wolf syndrome right now. You understand what I'm saying? We are getting to the point where we don't believe anything. So the
Right.
story of Cry Wolf is, the little boy that runs around and says, there's a wolf coming, and everybody freaks out. And then he says it the
Yes.
second and the third and the fourth time. And then finally, nobody's listening. And then the real wolf
Right.
is coming. So let's be both aware and also not in fear. So it's like we're listening, but we're not attached to the dates. And I want to say, like, to not just jump on it's yes or no, black or white, because oftentimes with these kinds of things, even predictions, even like Nostradamus and a lot of the long-term predictions, they may have had some accuracy in what they were seeing, but they didn't, things just weren't quite on, or dates were off and stuff like that. So like, I've heard these dates for eons. Like, I've been awake for, close to 40 years and been hearing a lot of the things that we're talking about now were supposed to happen back then. So it's not that I don't believe it, because I have seen a lot of things come to pass, but it's that I really caution against getting too laissez-faire and also too attached. So
I like it.
Yeah. And
it just gets to the point you don't want to hear it anymore. I didn't want to hear it. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Whatever.
Well, and what they're saying is there a stimulus? Is there a stimulus? What's the stimulus in considering that? That's what we need to be looking at, is what the guides are saying. Because the King of Pentacles, he's like, you know what? He's going like, he hears the problem and he's already rolling up his sleeves and going, let's get down to work. So what if that was happening on the 3rd or next month or next year or the year after or whatever? What does that make us want to do in the real world? Like, how do we want to respond?
Right.
That's what we're needing to focus on. It's not the message. It's like the impetus or the catalyst. What does that catalyze you to do? So that you're not just going into like, well, if it happens, then I'll do this. If there's even a possibility of it happening, what does that make you feel motivated to attend to in your life, in what you have control over? So that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it's a catalyst. So, if you can use a lot of these pieces of information as sort of inspirations for action, for practical action, amazing.
Nice.
And then if it doesn't happen, well, you've taken a practical step to do something good. Right?
Yes, because I think what's happening too, I think, Ashala, we talked about, oh, well, it's all good because they're spraying hydrochloroquine, so it's all good. So is it just making people go, oh, well, we're good now, Oh, such and such a premier got in, and I know in the province I live in, it was like, she had more pushback against the dark, and then it's like, oh, she's in now, we're good, so just forget about it. So it's just sort of influencing people to let their guard down, but not really be discerning. Is it all good that they're spraying? Is there other things that are happening?
So let's say there is the dangers of the cures, and the switches. I think we can all agree on that. And so then it's really about, well, I'm not going to, my vision of a potential future does not lean towards zombie apocalypse. Sorry.
Yes, because we're also creating our own reality.
Exactly. That's what this is showing. This is, we have a lot of psychic sway here. We are affecting outcomes by psychically swaying either for or against. If we go into that could never happen, we're also creating some kind of loophole. But if we go into that's going to happen, then we're starting to do self-fulfilling prophecy stuff. So again, it's that, are you okay? The death or the transition card, you notice it's one of the only cards in the tarot that's black and white. And it's a lot about moving beyond black and white thinking.
Yes.
Can we let go of black and white thinking and think more solution oriented? Can we think more, well, what does the fear of that make me want to do better?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like start to, put up blockades and get out the weapons to protect ourselves like preppers, like extreme preppers. But what does it make us want to do? Like, I'm interested to hear what people say that sort of possibility or those sorts of concerns, put them into action in a positive way.
Yes, because we might have fears or we might have worries, but it's like complaining. Well, what are you doing about it? It's the use of complaining about it if we're not doing anything. But I often wonder that even with the cure, how much do we of what we believed how horrible it was going to be, the horrors that it was going to be, actually brought upon the horrors of what happened, or even like the nocebo placebo. Like if I feel like maybe it's not that I would recommend it, but if I believe it wasn't so bad for me, is that better? Like I often said to people, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
This is one of the places where I go into the greater good of all. So I say, I trust in the Creator that what is unfolding is in alignment with the greater good of all.
Yes.
And whatever is needed by individual souls to have the ideal life experience for their journey is what I pray for.
Well, that's some
And
beautiful.
I would rather,
Mhm.
yeah, I would rather people didn't have to go through a lot of suffering. Like, if you ever, with your kids, have you ever had that feeling where you're like, okay, I went through all this. I really hope you don't have to go through that.
Yes, yeah.
I went through. Like, that's real love, right? We're
Yes.
saying, gosh, we see that you made this choice for a myriad of different reasons. And, not only do we like accept and forgive that, even if you judged us, but we also really hope you don't have to suffer.
Yes,
What
yes.
could happen,
Yes.
Like, why would we wish that on anyone?
Yes, yeah.
How is that going to help
Like
anything?
the martyr. Well, look, I had to go through rejection and lost my job or whatever. So what about you now? And it's like that's not.
Totally.
Yes, it is like you say, everybody has their own life lessons. And I like to always think about the meaning of suffering. I was always interested in Viktor Frankl's work and the man's will to meaning through the concentration camps. And also in the Edgar Casey readings, there was a man who lived like quite a tyrant through his whole life, and in the last 3 days of his life suffered so immensely and horribly that he ascended. And so to try to stop his pain or try to alleviate that, sometimes that was the most malevolent thing to do.
We don't know.
That is not right. And so, yeah, and we don't know. They even talk about the suffering of Christ in the Casey readings. And it was like the suffering of Christ had to do with his beginning as Adam and Eden, was suggested that Christ was actually Adam. So it's really interesting. That was part of his progression. This was part of the path.
Oh my gosh, we're going to need to postpone this for next week, Sue. That's you just opened a very big can there. And I'm so excited to follow it. We've got a few things that we'll follow up on next week and get going because I've got to sign off.
Amazing. I wanted to read lots of what everybody was saying here, but I just want to say, feeling grounding and so beautiful. People had some really good feedback. So thank you.
Wonderful,
amazing ladies.
wonderful.
Thank you all for being here.
Maybe
we could go back to Ricky Green here next time, but I just want to recognize that he says that the government being dismantled for the good of humans. So that would be a good question.
That'd be a good starting point too. We'll have a few things that we'll carry forward next week.
Amazing. Thank you.
We'll see you all there and have a beautiful week. And yes, in answer to the question, my discount is still on. I talked about it at the beginning and I will post that. In fact, here's the coupon code. I will just put it up here very, very quickly in the chat so that you can access. It's September 24. You put that in the coupon area. Let's see, there it goes. You put that in the coupon area when you go online to book a reading on my online booking system, and you'll be able to access the 24% discount. Have a beautiful week, everybody. We'll see you here next time. Bye, Sue. Blessings all.